42 years ago on this day, the first cases of AIDS, or acquired immune deficiency syndrome, were reported in the U.S. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention published a report on June 5th, 1981, revealing 5 young gay men across Los Angeles had been diagnosed with the condition. When these initial cases emerged, little was known about AIDS. At the time, it was considered a death sentence. AIDS was first seen in marginalized communities, including men who have sex with men, people who inject drugs, and people who exchange sex for money. Now, more than 4 decades later, we've learned through scientific research AIDS is the late stage of HIV infection. In the U.S., most people with HIV do not develop AIDS because of HIV medicine that stops the progression of the disease. Across the Houston area, there are several organizations working to end the HIV epidemic, including the nonprofit Allies in Hope. Joining me this morning to talk more about the work they're doing in our community is CEO Jeff Campbell. Thank you so much, sir, for coming in on the show this Monday morning.
Great, thank you.
June 5th, 1941. 81, excuse me. I almost had to look back for a second. June 5th, 1981.
Yes.
That's it's a monumental day.
It is. 42 years ago, we first had the first article in the Mortality and Morbidity Weekly Report talking about pneumocystis pneumonia, as you have discussed. And 42 years later, HIV is not a death sentence. Most folks are not advancing to age-related complications, or what we call now HIV-3, or advanced stage HIV.
Walk us through the early 1980s. Where were you? What do you recall from the early days of this epidemic?
Yeah, so in 1981, I was a freshman in high school.
Wow.
And
here in Texas?
No, well, here in Texas, but not here in Houston. I'm from a small town called Cuero. And eventually we started hearing about HIV and, at that time, AIDS in my small town. And then when I went to school at Texas State University, more information, but there was so much fear because of our lack of knowledge about HIV. And there was also a lot of ignorance because it was tied into only the gay male community, and at that particular time, white gay men.
During that time, did you ever think that this would be your calling one day, you'd end up working?
Absolutely not. I never had a thought. Yeah.
How did it come to fruition? Take us through.
Well, I started working as a volunteer with the Harris County Women's Group with a friend of mine who was a social worker there about 25 years ago. And I saw how this disease was impacting African Americans, and we were not talking about it in the place where African Americans gather most, the church. So I'm a minister. So I was like, we need to talk about
Makes
this
sense,
to our
right?
membership. Yeah.
Yeah. This year, your organization changed its name from AIDS Foundation Houston to Allies in Hope.
Yes.
What's the meaning behind the change?
So the change is, one, again, as I said earlier, and you said, HIV rarely these days with treatment advances to AIDS. The word AIDS is a very stigmatizing word, and we had people who were refusing services from us that they needed because of the name. And finally, we've never been a foundation. So that's why we did some work to leave that name and rebrand ourselves as Allies in Hope. Allies in Hope
has 2 locations, West Park and most recently in Midtown.
Yes.
What's behind the expansion?
Because it empowers us to do greater work in the community. Our mission is to end the HIV epidemic in the greater Houston area, and we can't do that just in one location. So in Midtown, we are directly connected to the Montrose community, to downtown, to 5th Ward, 2nd Ward, and the greater 3rd Ward area. All of those areas have high cases or new numbers of HIV diagnoses.
The services people can receive?
Yes.
Many?
Many. HIV testing, STI testing, PrEP to prevent HIV, Rapid Start ART for individuals who are newly diagnosed. You can get on treatment within the first day of your diagnosis. We also do housing and supportive services. We have a great food pantry, and then also services that connect individuals to mental health counseling and licensed chemical dependency counseling.
People who do not have access or do not have insurance, what do you want them to know?
We want you to come to us. All of our services at Allies in Hope are free, regardless of your insurance status.
How many people currently are receiving care through your organization?
Well, we serve about 6,000 people over the year. 6,000. About 2,500 of those individuals are actually in our prevention services, our Rapid Start ART services, and our PrEP services.
Did your services, did you see an increase in demand for your services post the pandemic, through the pandemic, pre-pandemic? Walk us through what the pandemic did to.
Sure. So during the pandemic, we didn't test as many people. However, we had a high rate of positivities with HIV during the pandemic. Our PrEP numbers increased because although people were in their homes, we were still having sex.
Yeah, so,
right. Individuals were doing the right thing by getting on PrEP. And one of the other areas where we saw increased numbers of individuals was Stone Soup, our food pantry. People needed food. Yeah.
And access to that. For people watching, listening right now, if they need to get involved, if they want to get involved, or if they need your services, how can they go about doing so?
Sure. Just simply go to AIHHouston.org. That's A as in allies, I as in in, H as in Houston, and then Houston.org.
Jeffrey Campbell, we so much appreciate you coming in today, talking with us. June 5th, 1981.
1981, 42 years ago.
42 years ago.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
we
you.
do appreciate it.